Magandang hapon mga kababayan, kayo po ay nanonood ng kauna-unahan at kaisa-isang pang-araw-araw na produksyon para sa ating mga kababayan dito sa Amerika. Filipinos love music and this man can attest to that. He has a career that spans 35 years and still counting, Grammy nominations, sold-out albums, and 12 visits to the Philippines. Hello, Mr. David Benoit. Welcome to Kababayan today.
Thank you. Mabuhay.
See? Any other Filipino words?
I only know salamat po.
That's good enough. Mabuhay and salamat po.
I think it's 12 times. It's been somewhere between 10 and 12, but I think it's up to 12.
And Filipinos love you. In those 10, 12 times of visiting the Philippines, doing concerts with different artists, what do you remember the most?
The dinner I had, and I don't remember, it was outside of Manila somewhere. We had this most awesome dinner at this restaurant, and the owner was a fan, and it was like in this garden area. It was so beautiful. And then the other memory, of course, is the very first time I went, because it's a funny story. I was, at the time in Los Angeles, hadn't been discovered yet, and was doing clubs and wedding receptions, and my manager called and said, I've got a date in the Philippines. I'd never heard of the Philippines, and so, and they said, and they want an orchestra, and I never worked with an orchestra. So we put it all together, and when I got there, there were all the press was waiting to meet me. They whisked me off in a Mercedes limo, and I just was like in a dreamlike state, like, could this really be happening to me? And apparently that my music had gotten really popular over there. I had no idea until I got there, and it was just the most amazing. I'll never forget that moment. And the Filipinos are so kind, and I have a very special relationship with them.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think your music has connected so much to Filipinos? I was just doing a little bit of research on you on YouTube. Take a Look Inside My Heart is such an amazing song. Even to this day, there are some variety shows that still sing covers and still play that.
Yes, that's true. I know they had on the Filipino American Idol, they had a Take a Look Inside My Heart contest. And I think it has a lot to do with the romantic feeling. The Filipinos are very, very romantic. They're very sentimental people. And that's sort of what my music is. It's melodic, it's sentimental, it's to the heart, and hence the title. But most of my music is that way. That's the way I've always conceived my music to be. And conversely, because I've always been popular in Asia, never had much popularity in Europe because I don't think my music is too avant-garde enough. So, but yeah, the Filipinos especially have really gravitated to my music.
It's sentimental, it's romantic, it's melodic. In fact, I'd admit that while I was getting ready today and getting ready for this and putting on makeup, I was listening to your songs, Hermosa Skyline.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. How did you stumble upon this kind of music? Did you stumble upon it? Did you pick it right from the start? Or did you study to become an artist like this?
Good question. Basically, it had a lot to do with my influences growing up. So my influences were Henry Mancini, the film score composer, John Barry, the guy that wrote all the James Bond themes, Sergio Mendes, Ramsey Lewis, artists that had a lot of rhythm and a lot of melody. So I sort of developed my style, right, listening to all these artists, and then when I recorded my first album in 1977, that set the tone for everything that was after that. I mean, I just kind of did what I did and listened a lot to. Another artist I listened to a lot was Dave Grusin, Earl Klugh, artists that just were about melody. So it just sort of evolved.
Right. And jazz? It takes a different kind of training to listen and appreciate jazz, I think, and more difficult than any other genre to play, because there's a lot of ad-libbing. There's a lot.
Yes.
A musician needs to get into it. It's not just all technical about the notes.
Right, it's true, and that's a big difference between classical music and jazz, is that classical music, you really are from day one trained to read notes. With jazz, there's notes, but it's more the emphasis is on the player. It's always about the musician, especially if you hear some of the early Miles Davis recordings. I mean, a lot of times he didn't even play the melody right, but he played with such soulfulness. And his improvisations were great, and that's really the big difference with jazz.
Is that also how you are when you compose? Do you sit on the piano and let it come to you and just play, or do you study? Do you take hours to write notes, and then when do you perfect it? Is it perfect right from the beginning, or does it go through different changes?
There's a process involved, and a lot of people ask me, and I'm always happy to answer that question, because the process is it does start on the piano, an idea, okay, and then you hit upon, oh, that's nice. And the way I do it nowadays, I start with just some music and a pencil, and I jot some ideas down, and then I take that and put that into the computer, and then that's when I start fine-tuning it and developing it into something, whether it's going to be maybe a song for just a small band or a full symphony orchestra. At that point I decide, and then all the work is done. But it all starts, sometimes it can start by just taking a walk, and something will come to me, and then I got to run home and see if I remember what I had in my head. But that's where it all starts. Sometimes I'll start with the computer if it's more of a rhythmic song where I need to hear those drums or whatever, but most of the time it starts right at the piano.
Take a look inside my heart, share my love. Take a look.